Hi guys, this is Si from SiNi Software. This is our second video on forensic, and so I have a bigger scene here, which should cause a little more havoc. I am also on my laptop, so I'm not connected to our server, so we're missing all the map files. We're probably missing some plugin licenses or some plugins altogether. So it should give us a little more than that smaller architectural scene that we did in the very beginning. So talk about the scene info here. This is basically just a overall of what's in your scene. Some of the stuff that just covers render passes, render effects, environments, total poly counts, the render engine you're using, animated objects, non-collapsed objects, groups. With groups, what Forensic does is as soon as it opens up, it will open all your groups. The reason is for that is if you do have objects that you need to select and figure out what they are, if they were in groups, it would just select the whole group, so we have to open them up. But when you close Forensic, it will close all those groups that it did open. So a lot of this stuff you go through hidden objects, non-renderable, not visible to camera, and invisibility tracks. So that's sort of your basic overall of the scene. Over here is all scene contents, so like Forest Pack templates, Forest Pro. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. I don't have Forest Pack on this machine, so it's probably going to come up with some missing plugins, and those will probably be Forest Pack plugins. So let me just isolate what I've selected. We'll see what we have as missing plugins. Yeah, so Forest 05. So it is Forest Pack that I don't have installed on this machine. But it still knows that there's Forest Pack templates in here. It'll still go through if you don't have a lot of these plugins. Same thing with RealFlow or Fume Effects or whatnot. It'll still understand what those objects are because they already have class names and stuff like that, so we can trace that down without owning. So then problematic items. So we have, let's see, empty items. Empty items are, empty objects are objects that are just pretty much left as nodes because they were an editable poly and now they have no faces or no verts. So it's just sort of an empty object. And like I said in the first video, this will it'll cause problems with simulations and extend render times and stuff like that. And empty mods. So here's a good example with empty mods. So we have empty mods would be, say, a spline that you threw an edit poly on and it wasn't closed spline. So now it's an object with no faces and no verts left to it. So it's going to be an empty object. But if you were to disable that modifier, the editable poly modifier, it's going to come back as a spline. So it's still a good object. It's just you might have thrown a modifier on a group of objects and it took to that. Or you threw it on a bunch of splines and one wasn't closed. So this will give you sort of information about that. Negative scale objects, that's more for lights. The ISO lights in V-Ray, they'll cause problems with that if they're negative scaled. Scaled objects, what this will do is it will collapse these. So if you do have modifiers that you want to retain, you probably don't want to repair, but if you are sending this is a fun done project and you want to send it to the render farm or whatnot, send it up to, say, Rebus, you want to make sure that everything's sort of collapsed and done, because the more modifiers you have in the scene, the longer it's going to take to render, to load, to do a whole bunch of stuff. So if we take a look in here, just at modifiers, I mean, we have over almost 4,000 sweep modifiers on here. So yeah, stuff like that will take a long time. I will go into this modifiers tab in the next video. Double shell, they're always interesting. I had a guy in the office and gave me a good reason why you would have a double shell, and which made sense. But most of the time, it's usually by a mistake that someone has a double shell. They've taken a spline, they've shelled it, and then they've shelled it again. There's double geometry there. Double UV map. This doesn't mean that you have two UV maps on it. And what it means is you have two UV maps using the same material ID. So let me just isolate and we'll take a look at one of these. And let's see. So we have a UVW map here, and that is using channel 1. Then you have a UVW map overwriting that using channel 1 as well. So that's sort of pointless at that point to have that second one on there. So that's why it's not going to go through, and if you have multiple ones using different channels, it's not going to show up here as a problem. Displacement materials, always problem with that. They're V-Ray, but in the new V-Ray, there's a simple way to get rid of that, and you don't need to remove the materials themselves. Displacement mods, you can, same thing, you can just repair these, and repair is just going to turn them off. It's not going to delete them or anything like that. Objects with no materials, XREF materials, and mismatched objects, and mismatched lights. What those are is mismatched objects and mismatched lights are if you have a render engine and you have say V-Ray lights in it and you're using final render, or you're using mental ray and you have V-Ray lights in it. These are objects like, say, a V-Ray plane using mental ray. These are problematic items that won't work. So it does go around and check to see if you are using objects that don't work with your renderer and lights that don't work with your renderer. CAD blocks. So there's quite a few CAD blocks in here, so we could go through, repair those. And after the repairs are really fast. It's a rescan going through that takes a little while, but we do a rescan after we do a repair, because sometimes they'll affect other objects. So if we were to get rid of say some forest pack templates, and probably you'd get some other objects here that with numbers that we change. Under here, link composites, CAD blocks, XREF scenes, and XREF objects. There's always going to be a debate whether those are good or bad. I always tell people not to use XREFs. You can use XREFs, say, if you're working on a scene with a whole bunch of people. But if you send a scene to Rebus with some XREFs in it, you will get, off and on, popping, XREFs not loading, and you'll have some problems with that. We've come across this many times. Also, the problem with XREF objects and scenes, well, not as much objects, but scenes, is you can't diagnose them. You'd have to open up each individual scene and scan them. There's no way that you could open up this forensic tool and you had 65 XREF scenes in this main scene. It's not going to be able to go and check the other scenes to see what bad materials or bad objects you have going on in there. So, but everybody works differently and there's their own way of doing it. So, but that's why I didn't put them in problematic. They're just over here in sort of AutoCAD items. Unused helpers. Sometimes they're there for a you link something to them and you're not using them anymore. If they have links to them, they're used helpers. It's not going to show up into this group. So if you've linked something to a helper or you are using them, they're there. Usually they're generally left over and they're just extra objects in your scene that no one's using anymore. Empty layers, of course, get rid of those, and missing plugins. And I'm betting that this is just going to come back with all the Forest Pack plugins themselves. And something that was invisible there. That's interesting. We'll just see if I can highlight that again. Oh, no, that was just left over from the scene. So, yeah, that's our main tab. Talk about the modifiers one we're still working on. We're deciding on what to do with this. And like I said, and I'm just going to do a rescan here. If you have any ideas of what you need, right now what we have is it lists all the modifiers that you have in the scene. If you double click on them, it's going to select them all. You can simply turn off the modifiers to everything. You can go turn them on, you can remove them, or you can collapse a stack. So it's a quick way of sort of going in and sort of figuring out what you have in your scene. And we sort of got this idea from Zorb because it was really nice. You could actually go through and sort of see what was in your scene, but the problem with the Zorb tool was a lot of this, it would find stuff, but it wouldn't fix it necessarily. So we needed something in our office at the time to be a scene checker. And it used to be quite a bit bigger than this. We've taken a lot of the stuff out, and we'll slowly put stuff back in and sort of listen to you guys and see what you want. But that basically is the scene checker right now, Forensic. Let us know in the forums what you think, what you need, and we'll go ahead and we'll add that. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.